Hey there, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Taylor. Today we're going to be taking a look at two Apple products, and if you didn't read the title of the video, those two Apple products are the Apple Studio display and the LED cinema display. Wait, one more thing. Here we have it. This is the LED cinema display from 2010. This is the Apple Studio display from 2022. We're going to talk about the differences in specs, in price, in form, functionality. But yeah, these are two very different monitors, both made by Apple. And here's this generation versus the old generation. Let's talk about it. But before we do, be sure to like, be sure to drop a subscription. Okay, let's go. Let's start off talking about the biggest difference in these two monitors, and that is the panel that they use inside of them. So the Apple LED Cinema display from 2010 uses a 1440p panel. It has a PPI of around 108. It's in a 27-inch enclosure, whereas the Apple Studio display uses a 5K display in a 27-inch enclosure, which gives it a PPI of around 218. So big difference here from 1440p and 5K. 5K is obviously a massive resolution. 1440 is a pretty typical resolution nowadays actually for 27-inch displays, and Apple had it in 2010. Now in terms of color, both of these monitors are superb. Apple displays are known for their color accuracy and their color calibration out of the factory. It's one of the benefits of getting an Apple display. And this monitor still looks very, very good in terms of color. I'm sure that the calibration has changed and gotten uncalibrated over time. That's just what happens with monitors as they age. But the difference in color is not as big as you would think between these two monitors and the Apple laptop behind me. They all have a very similar color profile, and this monitor still looks very, very good. In terms of clarity, obviously the 5K one is gonna take the cake on this. This monitor 5K at 218 PPI is just insanely clear, insanely sharp. Text just looks amazing. You cannot see the individual pixels at all. Whereas this one being 1440p, you can see the individual pixels. It looks grainier than the 5K, and it even kind of looks a little grainy for a 1440p monitor, but I wouldn't say it's anything unusable or annoying. You get used to it and it still looks great. Now, both of these monitors, the LED Cinema display and the Apple Studio display, feature built-in speakers. The Apple LED Cinema display has a 2.1 sound system, and the Apple Studio display has a 6-speaker configuration with 4 speakers and then 2 tweeters down at the bottom. Both these monitors sound pretty good. There isn't a huge difference, I'd say, between the sound quality of this one and the Apple Studio display. The Apple Studio display definitely has like a richer sound. It has a lot more bass than the LED Cinema display, but again, this is from 2010. So I think the best way to demonstrate this is let's take a listen to audio on both of these, and that way you can decide which one is better than the other, or just get a feel for the comparison of the different sound profiles that these two monitors provide. Right, so which one did you think sounded better? Let me know in the comments below. Now, another thing these two monitors have in common is they both have two webcams at the top. The LED cinema display has an iSight 480p webcam, and well, I mean, it's pretty much half-baked potato quality. It's pretty bad. The Apple Studio display has a 12 megapixel front-facing webcam, and it's okay. I mean, it's not great for a 2022 webcam, but I mean, it's not half-baked potato quality. But the CenterStage is fun, and it's a brand new feature of this monitor. Obviously, the LED cinema display does not have CenterStage, so if you like CenterStage, then you're gonna have to go with the Apple Studio display. They both have mics. This has the 3-array studio mic that is featured on the 16 and 14-inch MacBook Pro. And this has just a typical mic. They didn't have any fancy marketing name for it back then. It was just a mic. All right, this is a test of the audio. Here's my lightsaber. Yeah, how's the audio sound? But it's not very good. All right, here is the Apple Studio display microphone. I bet it's a little bit better. Maybe. The video already looks sick though. All right, taking a look at the front of these two devices, you can see that there's a pretty significant difference here. Very, very thick bezel on the LED cinema display, whereas the Apple Studio display has a much thinner bezel. I'd say it's about 50% thinner than the LED cinema display. There's the two side by side. And you can even tell that the surface of the monitor, that is way more mirror-like, where this one has a bit more anti-reflective coating. They are both glossy screens, but you can see that that one has so much more gloss to it. This one also has a nice little Apple logo here, which I really like, whereas this one is just plain. It doesn't really have anything there. The stands, this has a nice curvy stand, nice and large, whereas this stand is more squared off and boxy. You can see it's looks pretty thick there. That one's pretty thin, pretty thick. And both have holes for routing cables through. And they both have perforation down at the bottom, which looks really nice. Moving to the back of these displays here, you can see there's the Apple Studio display and there's the LED cinema display. They both have a very similar design language. There's the MacBook Pro 16 and the Apple Studio display on the left, the LED cinema display on the right. If I can get my finger, there we go. And yeah, so the Apple Studio display has a much flatter design than the LED cinema display, which is quite curvy. And it's much thicker. There's the thickness of the LED cinema display, and there's the thickness of the Apple Studio display. They both feature ports on the left side of the device. So this has 3 USB-C ports and a Thunderbolt. And this one has 3 USB-A ports, and then the monitor connection is here, which is a display port. So this is not Thunderbolt, this is mini display port, because the Thunderbolt display came out a year after this one. This model only lasted a year, and it had more ports on the back as well. So one neat feature of the LED cinema display, so if you come around here, it has, if I can get it, a removable power cord, whereas the Apple Studio display does not have a removable power cord. Another thing to note is that the LED cinema display has a Kensington lock down at the bottom, whereas the Apple Studio display does not have a Kensington lock. So if you want to secure this monitor You're probably gonna have to drill holes into the stand and bolt it down, which is not recommended, whereas this one, all you have to do is have a Kensington lock and you're good. Although I can't confirm the integrity of Kensington locks, so your mileage may vary with that. On the top, the Apple Studio display has perforation on the top because it has a full internal fan system which ventilates air out the top to cool that processor and all the internal components, whereas the LED cinema display is clean up top with only a microphone up top. Because it does not have an internal cooling system, it just is a regular monitor. In terms of repairability, serviceability, interestingly, the LED cinema display is a little bit more serviceable because, unlike the Apple Studio display, the top casing here is magnetic. So this whole front panel comes off because there's a glass panel and then the display is behind it. So it is magnetically attached. You just get suction cups and it comes right off. There you have access to the screen. You can clean it, or you can unscrew it, take it out, and the internal components are behind it, but you can't do much with the internal components there since it just consists of a power supply, and it's not recommended to service this monitor because it can be dangerous. You can get shocked. And then this one, it is serviceable, but you have to cut a seal around the panel to pull it out because the panel is actually attached to the front glass. So you have to pull the whole panel out, then you have access to the internal components, but you have to cut that seal. So, you know, you pretty much damage the monitor when you take off the front panel, and that kind of sucks. Unless you have like some glue or epoxy that you can put it back together, but this one is much more serviceable and it wins out in that regard. Both these monitors connect to the latest Apple products with USB-C or Thunderbolt ports. The only difference being on the LED cinema display, you do need a mini display port to USB-C adapter. And the software can be a little weird because the internal controller for the LED cinema display was really geared towards this mini display port for Apple products of that generation. And it doesn't really play all that nicely with the new 16-inch, 14-inch MacBook Pro. You need a program called Monitor Control, which will re-enable control for things like brightness and sound on the LED cinema display because it kind of struggles in that regard. Whereas the Apple Studio display, it was made this year, interfaces very nicely with all the new hardware, so you're not going to have a problem there. As far as old hardware, interfacing with older Macs that don't have the USB-C or Thunderbolt ports, your mileage may vary with the Apple Studio display. I haven't found a reliable conversion for that to connect to those generation of Macs, so you will probably have to do your own research on that to get that working. As far as this one, it works fine as long as it has a Thunderbolt 2 or a mini DisplayPort connection. That's what this monitor was made for, so it's going to work just fine with that. Both these monitors connect to Windows devices. Again, the Apple LED cinema display, you're going to need either a mini DisplayPort to USB-C adapter or a mini DisplayPort to full-size 1.4 DisplayPort to connect to a graphics card to get this monitor working on a Windows computer, but it will work. And it has similar features to this where you can't control the brightness, there is no sound. Both these work the same in Windows. I do have a video on using this Apple Studio display on Windows with gaming on it, so be sure to check that video out if you want to learn more about that. But they both do connect to Windows. Also, the stands on these monitors are pretty much the same. They both feature tilt capability, and they both tilt about the same degree. The Apple Studio display does seem to tilt a little bit further, but in terms of tilting back, they both tilt the same, and they both sit about the same height in terms of panel on your desk. Let's talk about the big difference between these two, which is price. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. This monitor, you can find this monitor for between 100 and 300 US dollars on the used marketplace. Whereas the Apple Studio display, it goes for $1,600 US. When this Apple LED Cinema display was new, it went for 999 US dollars. So it has definitely gone down in price. And you know, $100 to $300 for an Apple display that works with modern Apple hardware, works with Windows, has 1440p, 27-inch screen, 60 hertz. I mean, that is a pretty good monitor, and the colors are fantastic on this. It's got speakers in it. You know, that's pretty good. Whereas, you know, this, you're getting 5K, you're getting upgraded sound, you know, it's not miles ahead, but it is upgraded sound, you're getting upgraded webcam, and it's a newer monitor, right? So, you know, theoretically, it should last you longer, $1,600 on this one. So, you know, you got to look at these as for spec and see which one you would want to use if you're in the market for Apple monitors, which if you're watching this video, you probably are. And if you're in the market for a value Apple monitor, then the LED Cinema display is definitely what you're going to want, no question. Because, you know, you're getting 5K with this, but if you're just not using it for professional work, or you just don't need that 5K, then you're saving so much money by going with the LED Cinema display, and you're still getting a fantastic monitor. So in terms of value, I highly recommend this. If you want the latest and greatest bleeding edge specs, I would say evaluate this, because I don't think I could recommend this for $1,600 to anyone that didn't have a super big desire to get something that fits exactly like this. And I kind of mentioned this in my review. So this is a very hesitant recommendation. You know, look at it. This one, I don't think you can go wrong with this monitor. This is a fantastic monitor, and hopefully it keeps going. Hopefully it lasts so much longer. It would be amazing if this monitor lasted another 10 years. Can you imagine that? A 20-year-old monitor being used, you know, 10 years from now? That would be insane. And that's it. That's the comparison of these two monitors. I hope this kind of gives more perspective into the differences between these two. I have reviews of both of these, so check it out. Check out the review of this one. Check out the review of this one to get more in-depth details on both of them. But here's how they stack up side by side. Let me know what you thought of this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, and please subscribe if you want to see more content like this. We recently reached 500 subscribers, which is amazing. Thank you so much, guys. That is incredible. Obviously, you guys are liking these videos. The community is growing, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. And I'm enjoying making these videos for you guys. So yeah, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.